This solar fence generates power at sunrise and sunset for under $10,000, no roof required. Rooftop panels flood the grid at noon when you are not home, then quit at dinner when your bill spikes. Yet, despite running on German properties for nearly a decade, you won't find this on a single American rebate list. It is called a vertical bifacial solar fence. By the end, you'll know what it is, how it works, and how to use it to cut your energy bill. Let's dive in. Right now, the average American home pulls about 30 kilowatt hours of electricity a day. But that usage is not spread evenly. It clusters into two peaks. The first hits between 7 and 9 in the morning, when you are making coffee, running hot water, and warming the house. The second hits between 5 and 8 in the evening, when you are cooking dinner, running the dishwasher, and cranking the air conditioning after a hot afternoon. Those two windows are when your meter spins fastest, and those are the exact hours your rooftop solar panels produce almost nothing. Your panels hit their stride around noon when the sun is directly overhead, but at noon, you are at work. Your house is mostly idle, so all that beautiful midday electricity gets pushed back into the grid. And what does the grid give you for it? Less and less every year. The California Independent System Operator publishes what is called the duck curve. It shows that midday solar production has gotten so extreme that wholesale electricity prices regularly drop below zero. Your panels are pumping out energy at the exact moment it is worth the least. Then the sun drops, your panels fade, you walk in the door, and your house switches to full grid power at the retail rate. The U.S. Energy Information Administration puts the average residential electricity price at 16.6 cents per kilowatt hour as of early 2025. You are giving away power for nothing at noon, then buying it back at full price at 6 in the evening. That is not energy independence. That is a bad trade. The industry's answer to this timing problem is a battery. Store midday power, use it at night. But a Tesla Powerwall 3 runs about $12,500 installed. It holds 13.5 kilowatt hours, not even half your daily usage. And lithium iron phosphate cells degrade. After 10 years, you are looking at 70 to 80% of original capacity. You paid $12,500 for a box that slowly gets worse at the one job it has. And here is where the math should make you angry. You were being told to spend $25,000 or more on a rooftop system, plus a battery, just to time shift energy you already generated. The panels made the power. The sun did the work. But because the panels made it at the wrong time, you need a $12,000 appliance to move it 6 hours forward. What if your panels made power exactly when you use it, so you barely needed a battery at all? And what if you could do all of this without putting a single hole in your roof? The idea is almost stupidly simple once you picture it. Take a hardcover book and stand it upright on a table, spine facing south. At sunrise, light hits the front cover. At sunset, light hits the back cover. At noon, when the sun is almost directly overhead, neither cover gets much direct light at all. That is exactly what a vertical bifacial solar panel does when you mount it along an east-west fence line. The east-facing side catches morning sun during your first demand peak. The west-facing side catches evening sun during your second demand peak. At midday, when rooftop panels are flooding the grid with power nobody wants, the fence panel is loafing. That production dip at noon is not a flaw, it is the entire point. The word bifacial just means the panel has active solar cells on both faces instead of one. A standard rooftop panel has a reflective white backsheet behind the cells. Light goes in the front, and that is it. A bifacial module replaces that backsheet with a second layer of cells or a transparent back that lets light reach the rear side. Either way, photons entering from behind generate electricity just like photons entering from the front. The National Renewable Energy Laboratory published a study in 2020 showing that bifacial modules produce between 5 and 27% more energy over their lifetime than single-faced panels of the same wattage. That gain comes from light bouncing off the ground, off walls, off snow, off anything reflective near the panel. NREL researcher Chris Deline, one of the lead authors on that bifacial study, noted that rear face energy gain scales directly with ground reflectivity. Over concrete or white gravel, the rear face can contribute up to 20% of total output. Over dark soil or grass, it drops closer to 5%. That single variable explains why two identical fence installations a few miles apart can report very different numbers. And that leads to a bonus most people miss. If you live anywhere north of the 40th parallel, winter is where solar production craters. But a vertical bifacial panel surrounded by snow cover gets a gift a rooftop panel never sees. The white ground reflects sunlight back up into the rear face. Researchers call this the albedo effect. In snowy conditions, that reflection can boost winter output by up to 15% compared to summer baseline on the same panel. A rooftop panel tilted at 30 degrees sees almost none of that reflected light because the angle is wrong. There is another advantage that saves you money over years, not days. A tilted rooftop panel collects dust, pollen, bird droppings, and tree sap. You either pay someone to clean it or you lose efficiency every month. A vertical panel sheds debris naturally. Rain hits both faces and washes them clean. Now, if you are thinking a vertical panel must produce less total energy than a properly tilted one, you are partly right. Across a full calendar year, it captures roughly 70 to 75% of the annual yield of a south-facing panel tilted at your latitude angle, according to field measurements by the Fraunhofer Institute for Solar Energy Systems. But here is the distinction that changes the math. The kilowatt hours it does capture land during the morning and evening peaks, when retail electricity costs 16.6 cents or more. A rooftop panel's big midday harvest lands when grid prices are near zero, or when you are not even home to use the power. Dollar for dollar, the fence panel's output is worth more per kilowatt hour produced. Run the numbers on a single panel to see what that means in your pocket. A 400-watt rooftop panel tilted south at 40 degrees in Columbus, Ohio, produces about 570 kilowatt hours per year. But 70% of that lands between 10 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, when net metering credits in Ohio pay roughly 4 to 5 cents per kilowatt hour. The same 400-watt panel mounted vertically on a fence line produces about 410 kilowatt hours per year. Roughly 65% of that lands in the morning and evening peaks when you are consuming it directly and avoiding the 16.6 cent retail rate. That means the rooftop panel saves you about $45 a year at blended rates. The fence panel saves you about $43. Nearly identical dollar value from fewer kilowatt hours, because the hours are worth more. The further north you go, the lower the sun sits in the sky for most of the year. A low sun angle means more direct light hitting a vertical surface and less hitting a horizontal one. In states like Michigan, Minnesota, Wisconsin, or upstate New York, vertical bifacial panels actually perform closer to their tilted cousins than they do near the equator. And the storage savings from this production curve are even larger than the raw output suggests. When your panels already produce during the hours you use power, the battery you need shrinks dramatically or disappears entirely. The physics is sound, but someone had to actually build this, test it in a real climate, and prove the dual peak curve holds outside a laboratory. A German company called Next to Sun, founded in 2016 and headquartered in Merzig in the Saarland region, took the vertical bifacial concept out of the research lab and turned it into a commercial mounting system. They hold European patent EP3103151 for their fence mount design, covering post spacing, panel clamping, and wiring integration that lets a property line double as a power plant. Next to Sun did not invent the idea from scratch. The roots trace back to agrivoltaics research. Farmers wanted solar income without sacrificing cropland. The standard approach, covering a field with tilted panels, blocks sunlight from the soil. Researchers realized that standing panels upright in rows with wide spacing lets sunlight reach the ground for most of the day. Crops grow between the rows. Electricity comes off the panels. Then, someone looked at a single row of vertical panels running along a property boundary and saw what it really was: a fence. Fraunhofer ran a field study in 2021 on vertical bifacial installations. Their sensors confirmed the physics. The production curve shows two clear peaks, morning and evening, with a valley at midday. Fraunhofer's measured data matched residential demand curves almost perfectly. And yet this technology does not appear in a single American incentive program. No federal rebate category, no state solar renewable energy credit pathway, no installer certification track. The data is published, the patent is granted, but can you actually visit a working installation and verify it with your own eyes? The most striking example sits on farmland near Donaueschingen, a small town in the Black Forest region of southern Germany. Next to Sun built a 450 kilowatt vertical bifacial installation there across long north-south rows. Cattle graze between the rows. Crops grow in the soil underneath. Independent monitoring shows the site maintains roughly 90% of normal agricultural yield on the land between the panels. The farm loses almost nothing in food production and gains a second income stream from electricity. That dual output is something no rooftop array and no conventional ground mount solar farm can offer. You do not need 450 kilowatts to see this work. A residential installation in Bavaria runs along a single property line at standard fence height. That homeowner's setup produces roughly 4 kilowatt hours per linear meter of fence per day during summer. A modest 30-meter fence line, about 100 feet, generates roughly 120 kilowatt hours a month. The homeowner reported cutting evening grid draw by over 60%. His panels make power while he is cooking dinner. The installed cost ran approximately 150 euros per linear meter. For his 30-meter run, that came to around 4,500 euros, roughly $5,000 at current exchange rates. Translate that to an American property. A typical suburban lot in Pennsylvania, Ohio, or Michigan has at least 100 feet of usable fence line. That 100 feet could hold 20 to 24 standard bifacial panels. Based on the Bavarian performance data adjusted for similar latitudes, that fence would produce roughly 8 to 10 kilowatt hours a day in summer. That is a third of the average home's daily consumption, generated at breakfast and dinner, without touching the roof. No holes in your shingles, no structural engineer signing off on rafter loads. And if you ever need to re-roof, you do not pay an installer $2,000 to $4,000 to pull panels off and put them back on. And wait until you see the exact materials list and what this costs to build, with parts you can order right now. But before that, there is a harder question. If vertical bifacial fences work this well in Bavaria and on German farmland, and the production curves match American demand patterns almost perfectly, why can you not walk into a single American solar dealer and order one? Every piece of the American solar infrastructure was built around one configuration. Panels on a roof, tilted south, wired to the grid. Anything outside that template hits a wall of paperwork. Start with the money. The Federal Solar Investment Tax Credit gives you a 30% credit on a qualified solar electric system. Technically, a vertical bifacial fence generating grid-tied electricity should qualify, but no IRS guidance document mentions fence-mounted arrays. No installer will guarantee your credit survives an audit when the configuration has no precedent. So the 30% discount that makes a rooftop system affordable on paper does not exist in practice for a solar fence. Then there is the permit office. There is no U.S. building code that specifically addresses vertical bifacial fence installations. The International Residential Code covers rooftop solar and ground mount solar with setback requirements. It says nothing about a solar generating fence. When a permit office encounters something outside an existing category, the default is a custom engineering stamp. That stamp costs $500 to $1,500 and buys you exactly one permit for one property. Now add your homeowners association. Most HOA covenants cap fence height at 6 feet. A standard bifacial panel mounted vertically with posts and ground clearance runs 6 to 7 feet. Some states have solar access laws that prevent HOAs from banning solar installations, But every one of those laws was written to protect rooftop panels. Read the statutes. They reference roof-mounted and building-integrated systems. Not one mentions a fence. And even if you clear the tax credit, the permit, and the HOA, you still need someone to install it. The American residential solar industry runs on a rooftop supply chain. Unirack, Iron Ridge, and every major racking manufacturer fill their catalogs with roof mounts. Vertical fence mount hardware is not in any American distributor's catalog. Now, if you were thinking this is just a European novelty that will never clear American regulations, consider one thing. Ground mount solar is already legal and permitted in every state. A vertical fence mount is mechanically identical to a ground mount array, rotated 90 degrees on its post. The footings are the same. The wiring is the same. The electrical interconnection is the same. The barrier is not structural. It is that nobody has written the one-page guideline telling your permit office how to approve it. The same regulatory gap also means no solar access law protects your fence from a neighbor's tree shading it. On a roof, you have legal standing in several states. On a fence line, you have none. Here is exactly what you need and what it costs. The panels are bifacial modules from manufacturers you can already order through American distributors. Longi, Canadian Solar, and Trina all sell bifacial panels in the 400-watt range. Retail price runs between $200 and $300 per panel. For a 100-foot fence, you need about 22 panels. That puts your panel cost between $4,400 and $6,600. The mounting hardware is where you get creative. Iron Ridge and Unirack both manufacture ground mount racking systems that bolt to steel posts set in concrete footings. The rail and clamp geometry works at any angle, including vertical. You set the tilt adjustment to 90 degrees instead of 30. A ground mount kit runs roughly $100 to $150 per panel position. For 22 panels, that is $2,200 to $3,300. Posts are standard 3-inch galvanized steel tube. You set them in concrete footings 18 to 24 inches deep, depending on your frost line. Concrete, post sleeves, and gravel base run about $15 to $20 per post. With a post every 8 to 10 feet, that is 12 to 14 posts at a total cost under $300. Each panel connects to a microinverter, typically an N-phase IQ8 or an AP systems unit, mounted directly behind the panel on the rail. Microinverters run $130 to $180 each. They handle DC to AC conversion at the panel, so you never run high-voltage DC wiring across your yard. The AC output daisy chains on standard 12-gauge landscape-rated cable and ties into your main panel through a dedicated breaker. Total wiring and microinverter cost for 22 panels comes to roughly $3,000 to $4,000. Add it all up. Panels, racking, posts, wiring, and microinverters for a 100-foot vertical bifacial fence come in between $7,000 and $10,000 before any tax credit. The fence produces power when you need it. A rooftop system of similar wattage, plus a battery to time shift the production, runs $25,000 or more. This is not a complicated build, but it does require comfort with two things. First, setting posts in concrete. If you have ever installed a mailbox or a deck railing, you already have the skill. Second, connecting microinverters and running the AC trunk cable to your breaker panel. In most jurisdictions, the final connection must be done or inspected by a licensed electrician. Budget $200 to $400 for that call. The Next 2 Sun installation guide, available in English on their website, covers post spacing for wind loads up to 90 miles per hour, panel clamping torque specifications, and wiring diagrams for both single-phase and split-phase American service panels. Most documented builds took 2 to 3 weekends with 2 people. One warning that will save you real money. Do not use monofacial panels in a vertical fence. A monofacial panel has active cells on the front face only. Mount it vertically in an east-west fence, and you get morning production from one face and absolutely nothing from the other face in the evening. You lose half the value of the entire system. The price difference between a monofacial and a bifacial panel of the same wattage is typically $30 to $50. Saving that amount per panel while gutting your evening production is the most expensive mistake you can make on this project. None of that means this is the right choice for every property or every climate. If your fence line sits in the shadow of a two-story neighbor's house or a row of mature oaks, you have a problem. Shading kills a fence faster than it kills a rooftop array because a panel at 6 feet has no height advantage. Walk your property line at 7 in the morning and again at 6 in the evening before you buy a single panel. If shadows cover more than a third of the run at either hour, that section is not worth wiring. Geography matters too. In southern latitudes like Houston or Miami, the summer sun passes almost directly overhead. That high angle means less light hitting a vertical surface during the longest days. The morning and evening peaks still exist, but they are shorter and less productive than in Michigan or upstate New York. This technology rewards northern latitudes, clear fence lines, and households whose heaviest usage falls before 9 in the morning and after 5 in the evening. So, here is the final picture. $25,000 or more for a rooftop system, plus a battery that stores midday power you never asked for, slowly losing capacity in a box you will replace before the mortgage is paid off. Or $7,000 to $10,000 for a fence that generates electricity during the exact hours your kitchen, your lights, and your air conditioning actually draw it, with little or no battery required and no holes in your roof. The Dono-Eschingen site proved this works at commercial scale while preserving 90% of crop yield on the same land. The data is published, the patent is granted, the production curves are measured and repeatable. New home technology is coming fast, and most people either buy too early and pay double, or wait too long and burn thousands in bills. The future house files end the guessing. Every technology ranked and timed, with the exact price triggers that say, buy now, all worked out on the page, including the 10-year plan that takes an ordinary house from $5,800 a year to zero. Scan the QR code and see it before they sell it to you. So here's my question for you. If you had the budget for one upgrade this year, would you build a vertical bifacial fence along your property line? Or would you add a battery to your existing rooftop panels and keep time-shifting midday power? Drop your answer in the comments. I genuinely want to know which way you lean and why. Subscribing and sharing is the single best way to help this channel keep making these breakdowns for you. Next time, we are tearing apart a technology that turns your concrete foundation into a thermal battery, storing heat underground for pennies. You will not want to miss that one.